Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for those of you who logged in earlier. I do hope you've had a chance to check out the webinars that are advertised on the screen at the moment. I've got two great sessions coming up, one by Morten Egan from the Oak Table on how to get the most out of the Oracle Cloud. So if you're at all interested in the Oracle Cloud offering, then I would recommend registering for that session. And then one of the developers, and also two of the developers from Redgate will be presenting on June the 19th. Their talk is on continuous integration with Jenkins and the Redgate tools. Again, if you're interested in continuous integration, automated deployments, that's a great session as well. You can find out about these sessions and access all past webinars at redgate.com/Oracle webinars. So before we start, just a couple of quick points. Everybody will be on mute for the duration of the session. If at any time you can't hear us, please do first check your own audio settings. If you still can't hear us, then please do let us know either through the chat panel or the questions panel. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. But please feel free to type your questions in advance. We won't be able to answer those until the end, but sometimes it's quite good to jot down things as they come across, as you come across them. Also, this session is being recorded, and I will send you an email once the recording is up. I do tend to get these up quite quickly, so hopefully it'll be up by the end of the week, but I will certainly let you know when it is available to download and to watch. So today's session is end-to-end metrics, building a performance bridge between the developer and the DBA, and this session is presented by Lasse Jensen. So as I've just mentioned, the main presenter for today is Lasse Jensen. You can follow him on Twitter at LasseJen. Lasse is an architect and an Oracle developer for Every. Former Oracle DBA and an Oracle University lecturer. Lasse will tell you a little bit more about himself when he does come online. As always, I'm James Mercer. I'm the creator and editor of allthingsoracle.com, and I work at Redgate Software, and you can follow me on Twitter at allthingsoracle. This session is brought to you by the Deployment Suite for Oracle and Redgate Software. So, as I've just mentioned, that the session is brought to you by Redgate. I've been running these webinars for quite a while now. I'm always really thankful to everybody that does turn up and supports these sessions. So a lot of you would have heard a bit about Redgate as a company. If you haven't, and this is your first webinar, then please do go to redgate.com and find out a little more about Redgate. What I wanted to do before we got going was just highlight the tooling that we produce, the things that are available for the Oracle database, things that are going to make your jobs easier. So we've got three main tools, and they form the deployment suite for Oracle. You can find out about these tools at red-gate.com/Oracle. The tools that make up these are Schema Compare for Oracle, Data Compare for Oracle, and Source Control for Oracle. We do like to name our tools sensibly, and so you know what they do. So Schema Compare for Oracle enables you to compare schema objects from different schemas on the same database or between databases. You can compare multiple schemas, and you can script up and deploy those changes. Data Compare for Oracle does exactly the same thing, but for table data and for configuration data. Source Control for Oracle is a new tool, and we've got a little screenshot of Source Control for Oracle there. I will be doing a demo of Source Control for Oracle after today's presentation, and as you can imagine, this tool makes it much easier for you to source control your Oracle database code. It doesn't replace things like Subversion or TFS. It just provides that link between the database and your source control system. If you're at all interested in source controlling database code, or if this is something that you've found is difficult, please do hang around. There will be a demonstration after the main presentation. But one of the things that I think that sets Redgate apart from just being a normal tools vendor, is that we put a lot of time and effort into supporting people that are using our tools or working with the technologies that we produce tooling for. So these webinars that I put on and all things oracle.com are just a small set of what we do across the whole of the business. Obviously, these activities are geared towards Oracle database, and we do similar things to the other areas of our business like SQL Server and .NET. You can find out about everything that I'm doing at redgate.com/oracle-education. Please do check out the upcoming webinars. Please also go through the archive. There's about 32 sessions in there now, so there's hours and hours of great content by some really good presenters. Similarly, if you want to check out all things oracle.com, there's a whole set of resources and articles on there, again brought to you by some of the best people in the Oracle space. Of course, all of this material is free of charge for you. Okay, I think that's enough about Redgate. I hope that was a good introduction though. So I'm going to move on to the main presentation now, which as I mentioned before is on end-to-end metrics. I'm going to hand over to Lassie to go over this. Please do bear with us, it's a little bit of a delay whilst I hand the screen over.
Okay, then I hope everybody hear me. My name is Lasse Jensen. I'm gonna do this presentation on end-to-end metrics, which is a presentation that I've done several times. Last time was in the Oracle User Group, Norway, in Oslo. Short slide on who I am. I'm from Norway. I work in the bank and finance and payment. And I also have a kind of a leader of Center of Excellence in databases. We have different positions of different Center of Excellences. So I work together with the Center of Excellence of Java and different areas. I work with a lot of new projects. I have worked with Oracle since version 7. I used to be an instructor in Oracle University on the DBA courses on 8, 9, and 10. And I used to be a DBA, and why I say used to be, I'll get back to in a while. I do know some Java, and I have a lot of interest in Java, and I really enjoy to work together with the developers. So, okay, that was enough about me. This presentation is mainly about end-to-end metrics, but it's also about building a bridge. And I'm gonna reference some personal experiences, and I'm going to talk a little about the Oracle DBAs, the developers, and some other stuff. And below this is the performance. I'm not going to talk too much about performance, but what's in this presentation is hopefully going to help you to write applications that's going to perform. So let's get to it. I really enjoy this quote from Carrie Millsap. Performance does not happen by accident, and I kind of noticed that Carrie Millsap was one of the listeners, so thanks, Carrie. Carrie also have made this performance is the future, and this is actually what end-to-end metrics is all about. And Carrie was actually the first one that showed me in one of his lectures about end-to-end metrics. So I'm gonna do a short demo on end-to-end metrics and how it could help your day as a DBA and also as a developer. I used to be a DBA, and then I did my regular stuff. I did installing, I did configuring, maintenance, backup and recovery, patching and upgrading, and monitoring. And once in a while there were some performance issues. And so we solved the problems, and after a while I got kind of known in my company that he's the one that fixes the problems. So more and more I was working with the performance issues, and most usually we solved the problems. But did we really solve the problem? the developers were still doing the same same mistakes, the same lacking indexes, the same wrong uses of binary variables, etc. So I got lucky and got into a development project. And the question, was that a success? No. And why not? Because I suddenly realized that there was a big difference between performance troubleshooting and performance tuning. And I had done a lot of work in performance troubleshooting. And now I was supposed to do the performance tuning and really didn't know where to start. So I needed some other skill, some other way of thinking. And in this project, I definitely did not solve the problems. So I did a lot of reading, I did the seminars, testing, I did a lot of work, and then I started in a development department. So now I was a lot closer to the developers. And I was kind of surprised because this did not either solve the problems, because now the developers were sitting kind of behind a wall, and me as a DBA was sitting kind of alone, and I had some communication through that wall. Some developers were asking, create this table, add this column, create this index, what should we do with this index, but still there was a very, very little or no performance tuning communication. It was kind of a misunderstanding of what I could do for the developers. They knew I was a DBA, but they had no confidence that I really could help them in their work as Java developers. So my theory is the DBA phenomenon. That's what I call it. Why does this happen? And I think that there's some misconception about the word DBA. It's kind of a, if you need an Oracle resource, you need a DBA. But a DBA is not a DBA. If you needed a brain surgery, would you let your regular doctor do the operation? I would definitely not. So I kind of mislike the name DBA, and that's what I not call myself a DBA today. I rather call me an Oracle developer, or a developer, or architect, or whatever. So I think in a development project, you really should think about what kind of Oracle resource you need for the job, and have those resources as early as possible, and sit and work together, and of course communicate. And when you join resources that really can help each other and understand each other, then it kind of helps on the communication. If a developer, Java developer, is sitting communicating with a DBA that's used to do backup and recovery, they're on two different planets and really have no source of communicating. So a good starting point is actually the end-to-end metrics. So let's talk about the end-to-end metrics. I believe that the end-to-end metrics is going to do a bridge between the developer and the DBA. One of the reasons is that you can't do end-to-end metrics if the developer does not implement this in the application. So you're kind of lost if you don't implement it in the first place. So a developer doesn't really know about end-to-end metrics, so the DBA has to kind of meet the developer and tell him what to do. So already there's a kind of a communication going on. The DBA telling the developer, I need you to do this, because this would help me to tune or to troubleshoot your database. And when I started to lecture in Every about the end-to-end metrics, I really saw that the developers was really interested in this. So, and the developer also, when they saw what the end-to-end metrics could give them, it made a bridge between the development and the Oracle database, because they kind of understand much more what's going on in the database. they suddenly have a way of showing, okay, if I do this web service, what's going on in the database? They can easily turn on trace on their web service and actually see what's going on, and then maybe the magic behind the Hibernate or whatever Spring does is kind of more open to the developer. And of course, it really brings the DBA closer to the application. Who hasn't done a select the star from $$ session and seeing 100 or 200 sessions and really not knowing what's going on behind those sessions? So the end-to-end metrics really make a bridge between different parts of your organization, the developer, the DBA, the developer and the database, and the DBA and the application. It's very easy. Okay, and we're going to see that it enables you to do trace and statistics based on application metrics. I'm going to do that in my demo. We're going to be able to do some real-time monitoring and also some historical monitoring. We'll look into that in a second. So the Java implementation is kind of really simple. It's in the Oracle JDBC. It's an Oracle JDBC feature, and it's very little overhead. It's piggybacked in the JDBC communication. So what you really have to do is set different. You make an array, a string array, and you set a module action or a client ID, and just set the metrics. And then you do some stuff, and you could reset the metric afterwards. You could also do this by PLSQL. So if you're not using Java, you could call your PLSQL and use the DBMS application info, set module, set action, or set client info. There's also a package. I think Carrie was also the guy behind the ILO package, so you could Google it if you want to use that. When you have set the end-to-end metrics, it's very easy from a DBA or whoever has a connection to the database to start trace and of course have the privileges. Just call the DBMS monitor, serve mode act trace enable, and set trace for the module, the action you want. And you also set for the client ID. We'll see this in a second. Statistics, you could enable generating statistics on the same labels, module, action. Okay, so let's do a short demo where we look at a short Java program running something towards an Oracle database. And the first class is just an Oracle Connection Factory. This is just a Java class doing the connection and making connection towards my Oracle database. It's a local database, the famous Oracle. I have an end-to-end metrics class that actually has two procedures. The first one is the set end-to-end metrics that has 3 arguments: the module, the action, and the client info. And I tried to set the metrics and just return OK if it went OK. And the last one is reset. In every we have decided not to actually reset the end-to-end metrics. It's kind of a choice you have to do. I wanted to reset it after the code was running. The developers did not want to do that, so for now we're not resetting. That has some disadvantages because you have the client SQLite message from client waits, and you're not gonna be able to kind of interpret those waits because you don't know if it's just the application being finished or it's the application running. So I would actually recommend resetting after doing your main code, but for now we're not doing that. An advantage by not resetting is that you're actually going to see what has been run in VDOR session. Okay, then we have a demo service class that actually just going to do some some operations. And first I have a count emp. It's a really simple select. First I do a set end-to-end metrics demo count emp and the client info Lasse J. I make a prepare statement and run the query and reset the end-to-end metrics. So in my application here I do reset it. I have another service count emp by depno where I pass a depno and actually do the same. This is actually something I learned from my developers, or actually I learned from Hibernate, the way of making a comment in the SQL that makes it easy to find the SQL in the VDOR SQL. Okay, that was the count emp, and now we have the ugly, the service that's really gonna take some time. I set the end-to-end metrics, I do some stuff. I actually look up a number list type in my Oracle database, and I do an in list. A lot of the Java developers have problems doing in lists, variable in lists, and this is one way to solve that. This will this is kind of a way to bind a list, a variable list. So here I take a lot of IDs, object IDs, and I'm gonna check through my objects in a big table. It's just a big table. It's just a copy of all objects, and I do a join. That's stupid, but I just wanted to make a query that took a long time. So this is just a stupid query that takes a long time. I do a loop where I loop from every row, and I actually do a sleep too. That's not smart, but just to get some weight here, and I reset the end-to-end metrics. Okay, and the last, the main class is just run these three. It runs the count emp by depno, and the count object in list. So that's the Java code. So now I have to switch screen and get started. My second screen is a SQL developer, and the first thing I want to do is to check if any trace is enabled. So I start from DBA enable traces and see that nothing is there. So then I want to start trace for the demo. Or actually, you see the server mode act trace enable takes a service name parameter. If I don't know, I've seen that Java or JDBC often uses service name $6 users. You could check that from select DBA services, or you could actually query the $B session and check for your module and see what service name your session is running with. So now I'm ready to start trace. So I want to run this for demo and action name count objects. Okay, I check that trace is turned on and see that yes, it's turned on for count objects. So let's start the code now. my code is kind of bundled in a jar file, so that's why I showed you the code in the presentation. So we just start this, and we see that the code are counting the employees very quick. It's counting the employees by death note. Actually, the parameter there was a null, so it's counts zeros. And now it's counting objects, and it waits. So if we look here, I can see my traces, and I could see that the trace file is starting to generate. So then I could go back to the and look real time. If you do start from middle of session, yes, we see kind of a no identifier on the module and actually see only that session. I could also go into BDLR SQL and query on demo and order by buffer gets. I could check is there any, and it's ascending, and you see on the bottom here it's the two taking a lot of time. It's a nested loop. I could also, if I wanted to, just show the cursors for the count object action, I could query on action count objects. And I see also I have some auditing going on here, and I see a call here on the DBMS picker, and this one I didn't know about. I wouldn't expect it, but it's the lookup to the, or I haven't really checked it, but I expect this to be the lookup towards the number list type that I do in the beginning of that service. So this way, the end-to-end metric really makes it easy for me to really locate the application module that I want to look at. And if we have a problem in production, I could ask the developer, what is your metrics? He says that it's demo, it's count object. I can easily go out and fetch the information I want, and don't have to start with session. And I do for the heavy one, run a query plan or an execution plan. And I will easily see that, okay, I'm doing a heavy query, is a nested loop on the index fast full scan, awful cost, and I kind of seen the cause of the issue. So let's see if everything is finished, or we could wait. We can do the historical. Require a diagnostic pack license. It is a very nice feature to have, so I kind of recommend in production that we actually use the diagnostic pack license. We could use the select star from visual active session history that gives me a sample every second. I could query on module demo. Here I have I'm only selecting the snaps that also is in the DBA active history, because this makes a lot of the BDLR active session history. It's collected every second, so it's gonna be flushed every once in a while. So you have a copy of every 10. So every 10 seconds, it stores a copy in the DBA active session history. So I could look at the ones that is caught in the could and find out of it. Running.
Hi Lassie, your sound just cut out for that last bit, so you might just want to go over just the last, like as you was, I think it was as you was minimising
Okay,
the screen before.
From where?
It was just the final bit of the last part, just the screen you minimised.
The historic part.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's what I actually was just discussing is that using end-to-end metrics, you have also kind of a trace into, you can follow your application into the active session history. This active session history is a kind of very good place to start searching if you had very often you have a issue, and when you get back and get to your PC or when you get connected, the issue is over, and you really have a need to look back in time. And of course, you could have StatsPack, but StatsPack is kind of a general thing about your, or AVR is kind of a general thing about your database. In the active session history, you can really see information or historic information about your session. And when you use the end-to-end metrics, you really can follow your application into the history and kind of isolate what's the information that really is important for you. So end-to-end metrics is both just about doing real-time analysis and also helps you in the historical view. And let's see now if it's hopeful it will be finished with doing the in yeah, it's just waiting there, and it's probably now just doing a lot of running on the CPU, doing a lot of logical reads. It was running a little faster on my other laptop, but we could just carry on with and go back trace and look at the trace afterwards. Let's just continue on the presentation. I really think that there's too few Oracle developers. We really need a lot of more Oracle developers, and we also kind of need the developers to kind of realize that there is a difference there. A DBA might not be able to help you, or a DBA need kind of get more skills towards the Oracle developer role. And Oracle developer needs a lot of core Oracle internal knowledge. And one of the books that I've been reading is Effective Oracle by Design by Tom Kite. Tom Kite has also some other books, and Jonathan Lewis, and yeah, there's several books out there. Really know SQL and possible PLSQL. And then I mean really know SQL. A lot of developers kind of think they know SQL, and they do in some way, but there's also a lack. I think you should know about analytic functions, yeah. Know about SQL optimization, schema development, performance tuning, of course. Also the application development process. I think that DBAs should be kind of genuinely interested in the development process. I used to follow my developers to this conference in Norway called JavaZone, It's and they kind of look strange at me every time I join them, because they know that you're an Oracle developer or you're an Oracle DBA. But I think it's important to kind of know what's going on, and I have actually learned a lot about about Java, and that really helps me in my Oracle work. And of course, you're gonna do some problem solving. That's probably what you have been doing from before. So, what actually is wrong with this book? My first answer would be nothing, and that's probably your answer too if you have been reading it. But would a Java developer read this book? Probably not. It doesn't say anything about Java in front of it. So if we name the book, or one of his Tom Kite's book, an expert Java DAO or DAO developer, now maybe a Java developer would be interested. So I think we have a lot of work to do as a DBA or as an Oracle resource to get developers interested in what's going on, and kind of interested in getting to know what's going on inside inside Oracle. And a lot of the first courses I held for my developers was kind of packed with all the knowledge I knew about Oracle, and the students were sitting there with their hair blown backwards. And now I'm taking away a lot of the stuff I put into my courses, and kind of just the things that are very, very important for a developer to know. And just the fact that the Java developers kind of realize that this really make a difference, what we kind of do towards Oracle. And it might not make a difference tomorrow, and might not next week, but in a year, when the application really needs to scale, it really might make a big difference. So the developers has kind of started to realize that they need to know, and if they don't know, they really need a resource that knows. And they don't need a DBA. They need somebody that really knows what's going on, and somebody that they could communicate with about development. So Java developer, sorry people, if there's any developers out there, it's not enough to know some SQL. You really have to know more about Oracle. And the end-to-end metrics is really gonna help you if you're using Hibernate, if you're using Spring, if you're using any kind of API making your SQL for you. You kind of get dumb. And my developers was kind of afraid that I was gonna take away Hibernate from them. But no, Hibernate could be very good as long as you know what it does. And just using Hibernate without looking into the database, I think it's the wrong way. So getting to use end-to-end metrics to just implement your web service or whatever, run it and see what's going on inside Oracle, then you're starting to get somewhere. And doing that, we have learned actually a lot more about Hibernate. So we kind of know the strength with Hibernate. We know how Hibernate does bind variables. We know how Hibernate does eager reading or lazy reading, or how it reads clubs and stuff like that. So Java developers should really expand through what's known as SQL to really get into the Oracle database. If you don't, you will make the big mistakes, and if you don't, your application will probably not scale. And some kind of Oracle dude will find your mistakes for you and actually get a lot of credit for it. I've been in that situation many times, but what I actually work for is that I don't have to do those kind of things. After a while, when you have seen the same mistakes done over and over again, you're not happy to see them again. So, okay, it's just before we start with that, let's jump back and see. I think it might be finished now. Change that to no. I got my trace file. I could do a ttprof. Let me just we could do just very easily find the issue, and I kind of learn about what's going on behind my application. And this time I did the trace just on the count object, and as you see, the only things there is the count. What we miss in the trace is the auditing. But we do have the DBMS get picker, and I do have the select leading. And the auditing is because I had sys equals no actually. So it would probably be there if I just included the recursive statements. Okay, so let's go back on the presentation. End-to-end metrics really brought me towards the developers, because now they were kind of willing to listen to me. They saw that I had something to come with, and they saw that listening to me was actually giving them something. So we're starting to communicate, and this communication really had an effect on me, because I started to learn about things they were doing. And one thing they were using was the Java monitoring tool, Java Melody, that they used through Spring. And actually, for me as a DBA, it was kind of very useful to have a monitoring tool on the application. So Java Melody is just it's just kind of packed around the application in the Java container. It's very low intensive, doesn't take much of a overhead, and actually gives me a lot. Now I have a presentation on the HTTP sessions. I also, if you look in the bottom here, I have a SQL mean time graph. This is very low here, but I could also drill down into the codes on the HTML, and I could even further drill down into the SQL. Actually, I learned a lot from and it actually gave me another tool as a DBA or as an Oracle resource to look at the application. Another thing was actually the use of source control, because as a DBA, I have never been used to doing source control on my code in the database. Actually never. And the developers always talk about, okay, we have to put the SQL in the source control, and of course, and we kind of started to, we are using SVN and Git at our work, so we kind of wanted to look through different utilities on source control. And what we ended up with was FlyawayDB was in the development process, because my developers really wanted to deploy everything automatically. They're using Hudson and automatic deploys, so they wanted to push every change automatically with the deploy. And FlyawayDB could do that. And in FlyawayDB, we didn't have to use XML or anything. It was just a plain SQLs. One of the issues with the FlyawayDB that it could only push from the SVN to the database, and sometimes there are changes in the database that we kind of don't want to miss. Some DBA has been in doing some grants or doing something, and we don't want to miss them. So we also found this utility by Redgate. And usually on my presentation I do a short demo, but I know James is going to do a demo afterwards, so I just skip this now. But Redgate gave us also this feature that we could go into the database, compare to SVN, and kind of merge the changes. And so we use today FlyawayDB and in the development process together with Redgate, and it also kind of gave us a new way of, or actually we are about to change the way of we set things into production, to deploy things into production. Because now we can easily just take everything from development, push it into system test by Redgate source control, and when we test that, we could push it forward to production and know that everything we push is exactly what we have tested. So we kind of changed a lot of the way that we work, and everything has come from actually the communication between the Java developers, or actually the center of excellence we have on development that I work a lot together with, and of course the other developers. So working with developers, I learned also a lot about Hibernate, Spring, the APIs that they are using, and this helped the developers actually to learn about the effects on Hibernate on Oracle. How does Hibernate actually works towards Oracle? Yes, they're doing batch updates, but they didn't realize that when they did 50 inserts in a batch and using a sequence, the Hibernate was actually running 50 selects towards the Oracle to find the new sequence key. So that's not really a batch. So we kind of, by really working together, developer and the Oracle resources, we kind of strengthen the knowledge in the areas that was kind of between the database and the Java environment. So what I recommend everybody to do is that Oracle DBAs really should start to think in the way of Oracle developers, start to not only do problem shooting, but really start the way of tuning and start to think as developers, not just DBAs, and really just don't sit and wait to be asked, because they might not. They might just think you are a regular Oracle DBA that knows how to create tables, know how to do backups, recovery and stuff like that, patching and stuff like that. They might not know that you are inside a developer that really has the possibility to help and really could be a resource for them. I think the main view on Oracle DBAs is that we don't need them. I think that's wrong. Developers and project leaders really should ask for the right Oracle resource, not just an Oracle DBA. Remember the brain surgery. You don't want a regular doctor to do your brain surgery. You need an expert to really know how to do that kind of operation and involve them as early as possible. And of course, I recommend to sit together, and because then you could really communicate. When you hit that small issues, when you hit that Hibernate thing, you could really start to communicate and see, okay, what is going on right now? And physical location is always the best. It's not always you can do that, but it's a recommend. And of course, start with end-to-end metrics. It is a very good way to start communicating with the developers, because if you're going to use end-to-end metrics, you really need your developers to implement it, or you're not going to be able to do it. Okay. then we reached the question and answer. I haven't really seen any questions coming in.
Thank you, Lassie. I think there were a couple of questions. I'm just going to bring the questions panel up now. Thank you. It was a great session. I know Carrie was tweeting about it as well. So thank you, Carrie. If you do have some questions for Lassie, please do type them into the questions panel now, and we'll try and get through these questions. As I mentioned at the beginning, this session has been recorded. I will be putting it up on the Redgate website. Also, there'll be a link to it on All Things Oracle. It'll actually be hosted on YouTube. But if you go to All Things Oracle, I'll point you in that direction in the follow-up email. And if you do have questions that you think of after this session, or if we don't get a chance to answer your questions, please do add them to underneath the post on All Things Oracle. Hopefully we can answer them there. So the first question we have, what strategy do you use for Java end-to-end metrics in a connection pool setup?
Okay, actually I should have my developers answer that question. I think there's, that must come from a Java developer. I think they're using, I was thinking about doing some kind of I think they're doing a kind of a, what do you call that? They don't extension of the DAO classes. Actually, I should have one of my developers asking or answering that question. I could answer that after talk to my Java developers, then I could answer that more correctly actually. So if there's any possibility that I could write on my blog or something, I could be able to answer that exactly how they do that.
So I think that would be a great thing to add under the post on All Things Oracle. So I'll send you a link, Lassie, when that's ready, and we can just expand on the post that's there.
Yeah. Actually, what we have done, that's a very nice thing, that we have a tag JFR that actually is like a standard for all our web service application. A lot of the application we are making in my department is actually web services. And the Center of Excellence have made kind of a standardized application where we have built in end-to-end metrics. So every app, all of our developers using that kind of setup is actually getting the end-to-end metrics as is. So they don't actually have to do anything special than just setting the module in action. So it's kind of built into the standardized and yeah.
Great, thank you. So we've got some really nice feedback from the audience, so thank you to everybody. I'm glad you've enjoyed the session. We have a question here, and so I currently have OCA in database 11G. I'd like to be a developer. What materials can I get? Do you have some recommendations of books or courses maybe?
When it comes to OCI, no, that's some of the things I really should be reading myself, so I not really, there is a lot of, when it comes to end-to-end metrics, it's very simple to use. There has been some bugs on it, on some versions, but in 11G I haven't found any, I think. Just do a search on Metalink about the bugs. When it comes to OCI, there is a lot of information on Oracle, TahitiOracle.com. Sorry, I can't really recommend anything else.
Thank you. So the next question. So you quickly demonstrated how to use $active_session_history view to see what's going on with any session. is there a way to use it in order to estimate SQL execution time when it's in the middle, given SQL doesn't run any full table scans, so it's not appearing in $$ session?
No, I don't, because that is the active session history is kind of just snapshots. So yeah, you might probably, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't be sure if it was the same execution, would you? I'm not sure actually. I never tried to do that. If I was gonna do some kind of timing on, you would actually find that in the $SQL. I think I think you would have a. Yeah, I'm not sure actually if you could do that. A lot of the databases we are using in some databases actually have a diagnostic pack, but a lot of our service doesn't have a diagnostic pack. So it's not that often I get to use it. I really recommend using it. It is a cost question, and I'm kind of working to get to understand that it's actually worth the cost, and it gives you a lot more than some other utilities can, as we are using Quest, and that might, but even Quest can't use the active session history, so it doesn't really gives you the same as the active session history gives you, or Ash gives you. So yeah, but in some, there has been times when you really don't have anything, you don't have anything elsewhere to go, and then Ash is very helpful when it comes to looking back and see what happened on Monday at 12 o'clock. Yeah, your CP was running wild, and your stats pack got hanged, and why? Your Quest utility can't show you because it also got hanged, but Ash has every second of information. So there are several times that I got the possibility to use it, and it really been helpful.
Okay, thanks, Lassie. There's a question here regarding tracing. I would recommend going to method-r.com. Karen Millsap's got a lot of resources on there. It's Karen Millsap's company, including some tooling that might be able to help you with tracing.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Karen Millsap has some papers out on tracing, and I can really recommend those traces. I think you'll find them if you go to Method R. Those are some of the papers I use myself in experimenting and getting to know end-to-end metrics. So yes, that's a good advice. And also Metro R has some good utilities on trace. I have an old colleague of me using Method R and utilities there, and he's very happy about it.
Great. A few people have asked whether I could sort of write it, so I've just sent this out, so everybody should get that now in the questions. But it's method-r.com. There's loads of resources on there. Okay, so just bear with me. Just let me scroll down to some of the further questions. So next question is, did you use persistence with end-to-end metrics in order to use that information to make a comparison after different executions?
I think I have to see that question. Is that question in the question lister?
It is, yeah. So it's
start with what?
So, did you use persistence with end-to-end metrics?
There we go. Persistence. I'm not quite sure if I get the answer. Persistence, that has with the Java. It's late on the day.
Okay.
To make person are different. I couldn't answer that right away. I really don't get the question. Sorry.
Okay, so again, that's something I'll add to allthingsoracle.com. You'll be able to see it there. I see, and maybe there'll be other people in the community that might be able to help with that question. A question here is, so service module action are exposed in Enterprise Manager. Does trace need to be left on for this exposure to continue?
No. What's very good about this is that it kind of leaves the traces about. It leaves kind of a trace, not trace in that regular word. It leaves kind of it leaves the service module action in the database, and trace is not turned on. It doesn't have to be turned on, and you still will find that in the session. You will find it in the VDO SQL. You will find it wherever around in the database. So you don't have to turn trace on. You don't have to turn statistics on. You only have to enable it from the application, and then you are able to do real-time investigation. You are able to do historical investigation. So just using it in your code, implementing it in your code, it will make it exposed in your database, and that's one of the really nice features. You could just go in and trace whatever you need, because that's one of the big problems about when you're using connection pools, that it's very kind of hard to trace exactly what you need. Connection pool, you don't know what connection is going to use next, and so that's one of the really great features of end-to-end metrics. What I really maybe should show you is also the trace utility that you use together with the tk-prof, that because traces might end up in different trace files. So to kind of collect that together into one trace file, you need to use this trcSESS utility to collect everything into one trace file, and then you could use tk-prof on top of that.
Great, thank you. So that's the end of the questions that we've had in so far. As I said before, you will have an opportunity to ask questions on All Things Oracle under the video on YouTube as well. Hopefully we'll be able to answer those. I just had a comment from Carrie Millsap. Thank you, Carrie. He said you can handle the connection pool problem by setting the client ID, which is also settable with the E2E method in Java.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, thanks, Harry. We've also had a few requests as well for further resources, particularly books and resources on end-to-end metrics. I think the best place to put these up is again under the post, and we can include some links to that as well, and
also,
other resources.
Sorry, James. Also, if you look at my blog, you will find my email there, and feel free to send me an email with a question, and I'll try to answer as good as I can, and maybe not immediately, but usually I will follow up every mail. So if you find my email on my blog, just feel free to send a question.
Thank you. We've got one final question. We can take this question. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, I will be looking at source control for Oracle now. It'll be a quick demonstration, so if you're interested in source control and database code, please do hang on. We've got one question that's come in, and as a DBA, do I have to learn how to use Hibernate and understand how Java developers' code is going to work to be able to understand the application side of it?
No, not really. What you do is you have to kind of ask your ask your developer to start use end-to-end metrics. And when he starts use end-to-end metrics and using Hibernate, you actually will be able to see what Hibernate does. And when they do an enlist, you will see that Hibernate makes a bind for every literal in the enlist. And I know some Java from before. I did teach Java, some Java classes a long time ago. I do have some Java code running in production somewhere around, but I usually don't consider myself a Java developer because that's not what I do mainly. But so knowing some Java would be good. I could, because now I could go into the source code and look into the Java source code and understand what's going on. But you don't have to know Hibernate. It will be a good thing. The more you can communicate with the developers, I think it's good. And some guy just I sent an SQL because he needed to do some enlist, and I sent the SQL how to do it, and the answer I got was, well, I do Java, and I kind of have to laugh. Yes. Of course you do Java, but how do Java communicate towards the database? And then I wrote the Java code to do it, and then it started to realize, okay, I need to listen to this guy. So sometimes it helps to really know some Java. Then you better communicate with the developers. But as I said in the beginning, you don't have to.
Okay, thank you, Lasse. So thank you once again, everybody, for joining us for today's session. I do hope you found it useful. We've got some really nice feedback coming in, so thank you, everybody that's left some feedback about the session. I'm really glad you've enjoyed it. So before I go on to do the demo of Source Control for Oracle, just want to say thank you again for attending, and thank you for Lasse for presenting today's session.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Okay, so please give me just a couple of seconds just to get a few things ready at my end, but I will be starting this demonstration very shortly. As I say, it will be quite a quick overview. Obviously, you can find out a lot more information and download a trial on our website if you want to explore the product in a bit more detail afterwards. But the aim of this session or this demonstration is just to give you a quick overview of the main features and functions of source control for Oracle. So I'm going to break this demonstration down into two parts. What I wanted to do before that, though, is just give a bit of an overview of what this product does. Why have we designed this new product? Well, we felt that source controlling database code is something that everybody should be doing alongside source controlling their application code. It's something that's very, very common for application developers. It's not so common for database developers. For any of you that have tried to source control your database code, you may have come up against a few issues that make things a little bit difficult. It doesn't work quite as easy as it should do. The main reason being is if you're trying to source control a schema, you obviously first have to convert the objects into files, and you have to have some way of tracking and seeing changes or what changes you're actually doing and what changes have been done before. So Source Control for Oracle is a standalone application. It's a Windows application. And when you have Source Control for Oracle running, it's monitoring your source control repository and your database, and it will pick up any differences between the database and the repository. So if you remember something I mentioned at the beginning, and I probably should have mentioned it again, source control for Oracle is not a replacement for your source control system like Subversion or TFS. It's going to provide that link between the database and Subversion, and you'll see that in the demonstration. So once source control for Oracle has seen that there is a difference between the database and the repository, it will notify you, and that's a very simple taskbar notification which you're going to see in this demonstration. And then checking the changes into source control is as simple as typing a log message and clicking a button. So for the first part of this demo, I want to simulate that I'm a developer in a team and we're all making changes to the same schema. So we're working on a shared database. So I've got Oracle SQL Developer open here. I've got a couple of scripts, so I'm just going to be running these scripts to make things quicker, to make changes to the database. So I'm going to make a number of changes now just by running this script. So if you can see at the bottom of the screen, actually if I just minimize this quickly, just so you can see it, at the bottom of the screen we've got this icon here, which is the icon for source control for Oracle. It's now got a little red dot on it, and that dot is signifying that there is a change to the database, but these changes haven't yet been checked into source control, so the database and the source control repository are out of sync. I can right click on this, and this is known as a jump menu, and I can jump straight to the source control project that has those changes. What we mean by a project, as you'll see in the second part of the demonstration, is a project is simply where I've mapped a schema on my database to my source control repository. So the script that I have just run has made these 5 changes. So it created 3 objects, so a table, a trigger and a sequence, and then it edited a table and a package. So they're the differences that source control for Oracle has picked up. We've got a lovely UI here, and we've worked really hard to make it easy for you to see exactly what those changes are. So as well as listing the objects and the type of change, we can use this bottom panel and diff the database with the source control repository. So we can quickly and easily see that on this particular table we've just added another column here, this discount column, which is in the database, but this change hasn't been checked into source control. By default, all new changes are ticked, but we can select individual objects as well. If we select an object that is dependent on other objects, we do recommend that you check all those in together, and you can see that we've got this little notification here. We can click on this and select all referent objects. For the purpose of this demo, though, I'm just going to select all of them. Type a very quick log message. This will put the message into source control. Currently this project is connected to Subversion, but it'd work in the same way for Team Foundation Server. And I'm going to check those changes in. So you can see how quick that was. So I've made some changes on the database. Source control for Oracle has picked those up. I've reviewed the changes. I'm happy with those changes. I've typed my log message, and now these changes are in source control. We go into the history. We can see those changes as well, including the log message. We can also scroll through a history of all of the changes. As I mentioned, I'm working in a team with other developers. If I scroll down this list here, of course I've been doing quite a lot of the demonstrations here, but I have found one of my colleagues, Michael, here, and he's also made some changes. So if something was to go wrong with the application, I would be able to go back into, if I knew which revision or when these objects were checked in, I would be able to go back in and have a look in the history and who was responsible for checking those changes into source control. And just to run through this again, just run another script which has made a couple of more changes. One was a different change. Actually, we've deleted an object from this schema. Again, this is highlighted, and source control for Oracle has picked those changes up. And to check those changes in, we will do exactly the same thing. So what I want to do for the second part of the demonstration is just take you right back to the beginning of source control for Oracle and how to set a project up. But by doing this, I want to show another feature of source control for Oracle, and that's it enables you to work within distributed environments, and actually it helps you set up distributed environments as well. So if you imagine for the first part of the demo, I was working as a developer and we're all making changes to the same schema. This time I'm going to be making changes to one schema on a database, and I'm going to set up one of my colleagues who is also going to be making changes to a different schema on the database. And if I just go back into SQL Developer, you can see that the changes that I've been making were in widget James, and we've got this schema here which is widget Michael. Now at the moment this widget Michael schema is completely empty, and we can see that if we're looking on here, there are no objects in any of this. This is an empty shell. So we've created this empty shell, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to populate this empty shell with the latest copy of the database. Importantly, I'm going to do this from source control. So I'm pretty confident that as the team have been making changes, they've been checking their changes in. So source control, that is the most up-to-date version of the database. So this is the source of truth, so to speak. So to create a new source control project, again, I want to demonstrate how easy it is to get up and running with source control for Oracle. So we've got a 5-step wizard here. This is my database, which is obstacle. This time I'm going to pretend that I'm logging in as Michael. I can test this connection. I can carry on through the wizard. Source control for Oracle currently supports Subversion and Team Foundation Server. The source control system that I'm using is Subversion, so I'm going to link to my Subversion repository, and this is the URL here. Again, test that. So I want to select this widget Michael schema. Remember, this is the schema that's in SQL Developer, or that was in the tree in SQL Developer. So this is the empty schema. When you're working on this yourself and you've got a whole list of schemas, you can choose to show empty schemas or not show empty schemas. Obviously, I'm showing empty schemas so I can connect to this particular one. I have already set up a folder on my repository. This is the folder that I was using before, so I'm just going to use the same folder. I could create a new folder if I wanted to as well. And I'm going to keep this project named as Widget Michael. You can call this project anything you like. This is not important. This is just a reference within source control for Oracle, but this will enable us to identify the two projects. I've got a little summary here as well. I'm going to create this project. So we've got a slight difference here. So the two check-ins that I made, it was saying that I had changes, or the two changes I made to the database. Source control for Oracle was prompting me to check changes in. This time, source control for Oracle is telling me that the database itself, it has no objects. So it's saying I've got changes to get. But in a similar way, if one of the developers was making changes, if you're working in a dedicated or a distributed setup, as you make changes, it will prompt you to get those changes. And obviously it's very good practice to get those changes before you make your own changes. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to show you getting a whole set of changes, and obviously these are all going to be creates. So these were all of the objects that I checked in earlier. Once again, we can scroll down and look at the side-by-side diff view. These are all in source control, remember, and we're going to apply these changes to the database. So I'll show you at the end that this widget Michael schema will be populated with these changes. So simply click on this button, apply select changes to the database. Again, it runs through this very quickly. These are obviously quite simple examples, but if I now go back to SQL Developer and I refresh any one of these, we can see that we've now got all of these objects. The important thing is we've populated this schema with the latest objects from source control, and any changes that I now check in from my own project So I've checked those two changes in. My project is up to date, but as I've checked those changes in, so there is a difference between the widget Michael schema and my own schema, and it's asking me that I need to get these two changes. If I click on this project, you'll see it's the two changes that I have just checked in. So I hope that gave you a good overview of the capabilities of this new product. So Source Control for Oracle has been designed to enable easy database source control with SVN and TFS. It means that you can use a tool to take care of a lot of the hard work, so it avoids errors and it removes manual processes to source control in database code. It's a standalone application, so you can carry on making your changes in SQL Developer, Toad, PL SQL Developer, and this is great for large teams where typically you'll have a variety, or your developers will use a variety of IDEs. It fits with the way that you're working, not just in terms of the IDE that you're using, but if you're working in a shared environment, it will provide you with a quick way to check changes into source control and to keep a history of changes that you've checked in. It will also enable you to set up a dedicated environment and work in a dedicated setup easily, and of course it will enable you to get latest changes from your colleagues. As your colleagues check changes into source control, you'll be able to get the latest changes out of source control, apply them to your schema, or apply them to a local copy of the database before you do your own work. It's giving you increased visibility. It's part of the deployment suite for Oracle, so it works alongside tools like Schema Compare for Oracle and Data Compare for Oracle. Like with all of the Redgate tools, you can download a 28-day trial at redgate.com/source control for Oracle, or just go to redgate.com/Oracle, and there's details on all of our tooling. So I would recommend downloading a demonstration of the tool. We provide full support. It is a fully functioning trial. It's only limited by the 28 days. Please do let us know how you get on, and as I say, we'll help you get set up and running, and hopefully this is a tool that can make things easier for you. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have, and also go back over any parts of the demonstration if you'd like me to. So please, again, use the questions panel to put some questions in. Thank you for the feedback. A couple of people have mentioned that the UI looks really nice, so that's fantastic. I'll pass that on to our designers. As I mentioned before, we worked really hard to try and make this tool not just look nice, but function nice as well. So I'm glad that a few people have put some comments in about that. I've also got some comments about people that are considering using the tool because they don't currently version control database code, so that's fantastic. Again, I hope we're really helping to make this easier for you. In terms of other versions, we've got a couple of questions here. At the moment, it is just a Windows application. We've got a user voice page, and actually, if I can just bring up our Okay, so I've just brought up the source control for Oracle web page. At the bottom of the page, if you scroll right to the bottom, we've got this little section here, suggest new features. We've got a really active user voice page here. Please do add your own comments and feedback to that. We've got lots of suggestions. You can imagine supporting other source control systems like Mercurial and Git, as well as supporting other operating systems. Currently, though, for the kind of foreseeable future, at least we will be supporting Windows. I hope, I can't really sort of say for sure, but I hope we might be moving to, say, a web-based application in the future, but that's certainly not something we'll be doing in the short term. We're getting lots of feedback in about different source control systems, as you can imagine, like Git and Mercurial, so that's something we are looking into at the moment. But again, that really will depend on people's feedback. The more people that are using it, the more people are giving us feedback, the more we'll invest in this product. In terms of the scripts, a question here in terms of the scripts that we use to update the database changes. We do use alters. So the scripts that you saw in the UI were the creation statements, but when we're updating changes, we do use alter scripts. So thank you once again for attending the webinar. I hope you enjoyed the main presentation. Thank you for hanging around for the demonstration of source control for Oracle. I do hope it gave you a good overview and it's something that you would like to check out. Once again, the easiest place to go to find out information about this tool and the other tools is redgate.com/Oracle. So thank you again, and I do hope you have a nice evening or a nice day depending on where you are. Thank you once again.